Cycling with toddlers and young children, sometimes it's a dream and sometimes it's chaos. There's tears, there's lost teddies, there's lost shoes, lost marbles, the list goes on. Welcome back to my channel, it's Matt here. I want to spend a bit of time talking about cycling with children today, because this is something that I've mentioned in a few of my videos in the past, the need to get a bike that can cart kids around on and stuff like that. I want to just spend a bit of time talking about what's worked for me and take a look at my current setup. So out of all the options there are for carrying little passengers around, I'm going to focus mainly on front and rear seats. Front seats, which has historically been my preferred option, things like a Weeride, kids ride shotgun, that kind of thing. Also talk a bit about rear seats, things like trailers, tag, drag along systems and cargo bikes I'll probably cover off in another video, so focusing just on front and rear seats. Now the front style of seat has always been my preferred way to go. I just like having my son and daughter in front of me where I can see them. If they're going to try and dismount partway through the ride unexpectedly, I can just grab hold of them. And also it's good when they're still napping, the fact that if they're going to conk out at some point in the ride, for example, they can just put their head down on the pad in front that you get with a Weeride. So this has always been my preferred style. The downsides of them is that once they start to get a bit bigger, it all gets a bit uncomfortable. There's a bit more mass for you to get your arms around, and also their sort of helmet starts to bang up against your chin. So I have been thinking about getting a rear seat, and when I had my bike nicked and the Weeride went with it and stuff, I thought that was a point to switch things up. So once I got my new bike built up, which is the Space Horse, I started to try some of those front mounted seats on just to see if they'd fit. So I got hold of a Weeride that one of my neighbours didn't want anymore and tried that. But that didn't fit. The number of steerer spaces I had on, and the angle, and the fact that the front bit of the Weeride is not articulated like some of these systems are that are similar, like the Macmore equivalent works. The Weeride just wouldn't go on. And then I tried the kids ride shotgun, which is more of a mountain bike seat. It's more for like off-roading. That didn't go on either because there just wasn't enough clearance between the front wheel and the down tube. So I kind of thought at this point, I'll just start looking at rear options, and so yeah, decided to hit up the Blue Lug blog. And the Blue Lug is the Japanese bike shop that I found my original Space Horse idea in. There was a Space Horse in their build gallery, and I thought that looks good, and ended up copying quite a few aspects of the build that I saw there. So I thought I would search their blog again for any kid seat options, and quite quickly saw this blog post on cool dag bikes. So the second option down was a Space Horse with a rear mounted seat on, and as soon as I saw it I was like, right, this is what I'm going to go for. So this is an interesting setup. It's obviously got front and rear racks and single speed. I've been avoiding like putting a front rack on this bike just because I don't want the faff of taking it on and off every time I want to ride with less weight. But I was happy to get a rear rack, and I was thinking of going down the rear rack route rather than a frame mounted route where the seat attaches to the seat tube. I thought just to have as much life as possible, and I'd go for the rear, which would probably be just a bit more stable and robust. So at this point, seeing as I'd taken quite a few ideas now from Blue Lug, I thought I'd put an order in at the same time. So I bought a couple of things on their site, which I'll show you here. So I got a gadget pouch, which has been really useful, just to put my phone and camera, bits and pieces like that. Got some safety triangles, which have also been useful. Some flat pedals for this bike, and then a bell and a couple of t-shirts and stuff. So when the order came through, took the opportunity to do a few rad bike to dad bike upgrades. So got the pedals on, and then also I changed the cassette of this bike as well. I've been using 1146 Sun Race, which has resulted in me needing the whole of a chain, basically all 118 links or whatever, which it just doesn't quite feel like it's shifting perfectly. It works fine, there's no like noise or anything, but I've been thinking about maybe just using a slightly smaller cassette. So at this point I've decided let's get an 1142 on there and try that, and that has worked really well. That still obviously has like loads of range and some quite big jumps because it's only 10 speed. It's got some fairly big jumps between cogs, but it just works perfectly and shifts seamlessly, so that's really good. And then I started putting the rack on that I was going to need for the seat. So this rack's an interesting one. It's a top peak, but funnily enough, check this out, it says that it shouldn't be used with a child's seat, so I'm not quite sure what to make about this, whether it's a bad idea or not. But as things stand, not having had any issues, but I'd be interested to know if anyone else has got any thoughts on that. So I did end up ordering this Thule Yepp maxi that I'd seen in the blog post, and I ordered it from you because I thought there were some really good colourways. Weerides historically I've always ordered second hand because there's just so many of them about, but I quite fancied this new style of Yepp maxi. So yeah, ordered one online and it came, and it was pretty easy to get on the rack. The good thing about this new style is it just clamps onto the side of the rack, and it's pretty easy to get on and off, which is handy when you're keeping your bike in a bike shed and you need to get the seat on and off regularly. Just having this screw-in system is really good. It's made of plastic, so it's not the smoothest, but it's still pretty easy to use. The main alternatives I see to this style of seat is probably the Hamax Siesta. I see that around quite a lot, both the frame mounted and the rack mounted versions, but I just think this looks a bit better and it looks a bit more comfortable as well. It's made out of a really soft and spongy material. It feels like you can get longer rides out of this than the old Weeride seat that I was using. The one thing I have been doing now that I'm using this seat is to put a bit more PSI in the back tyre, because I was finding when I was going over bumps or sometimes popping up onto a curb, if I had only like 40 PSI or whatever, I was just grounding out on the rim from time to time, so I'm now running a bit more PSI, which seems to make that problem go away. Right, it's time for a little spin.
Really? Yeah. We just went through a tunnel again, didn't we?
So truth be told, riding regularly with a rear seat does make a step-through frame become a lot more appealing, which is something I might look at in the future, but for now I'm happy to just kind of hop my leg over the top. I am missing the dropper post that I had on my previous bike quite a bit. That is really handy for cycling with a kid on board. When you come to lights or anything like that, you can just knock the dropper post and get both feet down really stably. But it just wouldn't work on this frame, and I don't really need one for the other cycling that I'm doing on this bike, so that's just something I'm gonna have to learn to live with. Another bit of a gripe I have with this seat is I'm very used to cycling with a backpack when I'm taking one of my kids out, to put nappies, snacks, water bottle, coats, all that kind of stuff in, and there just isn't enough room when you've got the rear seat on between the passenger's face and the back of the backpack. So I've had to start rigging up bar bag, hip pack, cargo net over the top of the bar bag and stuff like that to make sure I've got all the things I need for a little trip out, but that's something I can live with for now. So all in all, I think this is the way to go. Babies and toddlers whilst they're still napping, it's all about the front seat. Once they're a bit bigger, you want to do longer rides, I feel like the rear mounted is the way to go. So that's pretty much it for this video. I will be back at some point because I want to do a separate video on tag-along systems, cargo bikes maybe, and also I might look at step-through frames as well, because I think they're really interesting, and cycling with children certainly makes them a bit more appealing. But until then, it's bye for now.